Good morning. Welcome back. So last time we left them, they were in the room in the library again, Bobby and Alicia, and Alicia's father showed up. So, two committees. So Alicia's dad finds out about me, and then her mom does too. It's not much of a story. It's Friday in the library, and Alicia's taking heat from her dad about why she's talking to the wall for 5 minutes straight. And I can see that she's going to have to start lying for me. And I don't want her to have to do that, so I just begin talking to her dad. And he stutters and squints and passes through all the phrases that mom and dad and Alicia have: fear, confusion, disbelief, and then amazement that levels out to a steady curiosity. Of course, for mom and dad, the final phase is a steady worry that keeps on chewing at them. But that's because they're my parents, and parents can't help worrying about their kids, even if they're fine. So, as the great Professor Leo Van Dorn gets over the shock, he immediately starts to theorize, just like my dad did, except that he's an astronomer, so instead of talking calmly about visible light anomalies and refractive indexes like Dad did, he's pacing around the room looking at me from every angle while he runs one hand through his Einstein hair, and he's saying that I'm like a black hole. A different absorptive principle, of course, but quite extraordinarily nevertheless. The next person who has to know is Alicia's mom. After all, you can't have 2/3 of a family knowing a juicy secret like the Bobby story. So, as they leave the library, I tell Alicia and her dad it's okay to tell Mrs. Van Horn, as long as they're sure she won't go nuts and call the cops or something. And late Friday afternoon, Alicia's mom passes through the same steps when Alicia and her dad tell her about me. I hear about it later on the phone from Alicia. First, her mom thinks Alicia and her dad are ganging up on her to play a practical joke. When she finally believes them, she goes right to the heart of her problem with the whole situation. She says to Alicia, "What does this young man wear when you meet with him?" And Alicia says, on really cold days he wears saran wrap, but most of the time he's naked. Mrs. Van Dorn is not amused by this. And my first visit to Alicia's house? That's on Saturday afternoon. It didn't help that Alicia didn't tell her mom that I was coming. I ring the doorbell, and I think it's going to be Alicia, and it's this lady in an exercise leotard with her hair up and a headband. Alicia's standing behind her, grinning toward the doorway. And her mom looks around, up and down the sidewalk, and she gets this angry flash in her eyes. And she's about to slam the door shut when I say, "Mrs. Van Dorn? I'm Bobby Phillips. Alicia said I could come over to see her today." And her mom's eyes bug out, and she steps back and gasps, and she doesn't know what to do. Which is when Alicia pipes up and says, "Sorry, Mom, I forgot to tell you. It's okay, isn't it? If Bobby comes in for a while?" And I can tell by the look on Alicia's face that she did it on purpose, surprising her mom and me. Her mom lets me in, but she says, "Stand right there." And she runs, really runs, and brings me a long white terry cloth robe to wear. At that first visit, Alicia sits on a chair in the living room, and I sit on the couch with her mom, and she stays there with us the whole time. And I don't blame her. If Alicia were my daughter, I'd want to protect her too. Mom is wrong about Dad being so mad that I'm telling other people about the situation. She said I had to tell him about the Van Dorns myself. When I, she said I had to tell him about the Van Dorns myself. When I call him at the hospital late Saturday afternoon, I'm all set for a big yelling match. It doesn't happen though. Dad listens when I tell him about Alicia and about her dad and mom, and he doesn't shout or sputter or interrupt me or anything. He's quiet, and when he says, "If that's a decision you've made, Bobby, then your mom and I will back you up 100%. These people might even end up being a help. Frankly, I've been feeling a little overwhelmed about everything. I've heard of Professor Van Dorn, and I can't wait to meet him and talk about this." I'm surprised he takes the news so well, and as I hang up, I wonder why he's so mellow, and I wonder if this is a real change. But I don't get my hopes up high. It might just be something the doctor is piping into his brain. I know what Dad means about being overwhelmed. And he's right. It's a relief to have a few people on the official Save the Bobby Phillips committee. Because this started on Tuesday and now it's Saturday. That's 5 days. When I woke up this morning, I got scared. Not scared like the last 4 mornings. Not scared by the sudden rediscovery that my body is missing. I got scared because I woke up already knowing that I'm like this. That means I'm getting used to it. Nothing's changing, and I'm just rolling along, going with the flow. I'm adjusting to a serious maladjustment. And that's truly frightening, but I am learning stuff. The real lessons start 2 weeks later when Dad comes home from the hospital, and he's at home with me and Mom for 6 days before he starts commuting to Batavia again. He's got a blue plastic cast on his left arm from his elbow to his knuckles. Most of the time at home, he spends poking through a huge stack of books and scientific journals. And now that he's going to Fermilab every day, I have the feeling he's doing the same thing there all day, looking for the science of what's happening. I reminded him about maybe taking a fingernail clipping to put under the electron microscope, but he shook his head and said, "Too early for that. Need to have a better theoretical grip on it first." And Dad's different. Or maybe I am. Or maybe it's both of us because there's a lot less yelling. He talks, I listen. I talk, he listens. He still says plenty of stupid stuff and he still says bingo way too much, but he's definitely not the same person. So, one thing I learned is that maybe everyone should have a near-death experience now and then. Sure did the trick for Dad. And I learned that I can have a girlfriend, or at least a friend who's a girl. That's because I talk to Alicia a lot. We talk on the phone and we do instant messaging. She's got a text-to-speech translator on her PC so that whatever I type into a message window, her PC says out loud. She types a lot faster than I do. And we just talk. She tells me how her day stinks, or how her mom yells at her, and I tell her how my day stinks and how my mom yells at me. She tells me that the week before she went blind, she checked a book out at the library called Welcome to the Monkey House. It's by Kurt Vonnegut, and she only read the first 3 stories, and now her audiobook supplier can't find a recording of it. So we talk about Vonnegut, and I tell her that my favorite book of his is Cat's Cradle. Then I get my mom to buy the Monkey House book, and I read Alicia a couple of the stories over the phone. She says I'm really good at reading out loud, and we just talk about stuff. So that's something I learn I can do. Because before Alicia, what girls did I actually talk to? There's Mom, and then there's about 50 teachers and babysitters and daycare ladies who are all basically like Mom. There's Carla, who was my lab partner in 8th grade science, and she's basically like Dad. And that's pretty much it. So my known female database is pretty limited, because the girls at the lab school are mostly scary, and if any of them want to be friends, they haven't told me. About half of the girls at U-High act like they've known what they want to do in life since about 3rd grade. Girls like Megan Murray and Linda Strauss, if they see me at all, they look at me like I'm a bug, something to squash as they march toward the highest possible class rank. The other half of the girls have money. Girls like Jessica and her crew. They're into clothes and shoes and jewelry and cell phones and beepers, and cars will be next. These girls don't pass notes in class. They send infrared emails to each other on little palm computers. There is Kendra, though. I've talked with her. She plays tenor sax in the jazz band. This solo she plays on Harlem Nocturne, it's so good it makes me want to take saxophone lessons. I talk with her once in a while, just talk. Still, Kendra's mom's like a musician, more like a musician than a girl. Kendra's more like a musician than a girl. So, like I said, because of Alicia, I learned that a girl will talk to me and even seem to enjoy it. We both enjoy it. Back at the end of the first week when I told Dr. Van Dorn and he got so excited, I thought he and Dad and the committee would get together right away. Do some big league brainstorming. Work up an action plan to save Bobby Phillips. But it doesn't happen. The committee does agree on one thing, by phone, that if Bobby Phillips is ever going to have a regular life, we must maintain absolute secrecy while we look for a way to get him back to normal. So I learned the hard way that I shouldn't depend on a committee to solve my problems. Sitting on my bed looking at my bookcase one night during the 2nd week, I see my thick Sherlock Holmes collection. It's all the stories in 2 fat volumes. The great thing about Sherlock Holmes is he never sat around looking for theories. He was into facts and observation, like in The Adventure of the Speckled Band, about the man who dies in his bed one night and no one can figure it out. It's because no one took the time to really look at the room, and when Holmes does, he sees exactly what happens. That idea sets me off, and over the next few days, and whenever I'm talking to my folks or Alicia or not eating or sleeping, I'm being a detective. I start by writing down everything I can remember about the 2 days before the suspect disappeared. What the suspect ate, what he wore, where he went, who he talked to, where he sat, how many times he washed his hands, as much as I can remember. And I tape 4 sheets of typing paper together, end to end, and lay all the information out on a timeline, hour by hour. Because there must be a clue somewhere. People don't just disappear. Something or someone had to make it happen. Then I start to think of my room like it's a crime scene, because that's where I was when it happened. Or maybe I was in the hall bathroom. So I make a list of everything in both rooms. Everything. The carpet and the light bulbs and my alarm clock and the flashlight under my bed and the pack of firecrackers hidden in my desk. The shampoo in the tub, the plunger under the sink, Dad's old Norelco razor. Everything. Then I categorize every item as many different ways as I can think of. Natural, synthetic, liquid, solid, electrical, chemical, wood, metal, plastic, paper, and on and on. And it feels like I'm making progress for a day or two. But by the end of the second week, I'm out of ideas, and no matter how I look at all the information, all I see is an invisible kid looking at nothing in a mirror. And when I show the lists and the timeline to Dad after dinner one night, he says, interesting material, Bobby. I'll hang on to it. But I can tell from his face that Dad doesn't think much of my sleuthing. So another thing I learned is that Sherlock Holmes always finds the right clue, and I don't. Here's something dangerous I learned about myself. I learned that even with a steady fear eating away at me, the fear of being this way forever, and even when I'm working hard to find a solution or just a clue, even then I can call Alicia or get a snack or read a book, and I can trick myself into feeling almost normal for hours at a time. But the most dangerous thing I learned about this 3 weeks is that people who run schools are nosy. They don't like it when a kid just stops coming. It doesn't matter if it's a public school or one like mine. When you don't show up for a week, they want to know the details. So the school nurse calls the Monday after my mom gets home from the hospital. Mom tells her that I still got the flu. The nurse has heard about the car accident that Mom and Dad were, and that Mom and Dad were in the hospital. Mom tells her that Aunt Ethel was here to take care of me. The nurse is glad I'm doing much better now. How much longer will he be missing classes? Another week? Fine. A week later, to the day, the nurse is not curious anymore. Now she's edgy. She calls Mom again. She's getting notes from my teachers in the counseling office because 2 weeks is a long time to be absent from a high-powered private prep school. It's a lot of classes to miss, not to mention the midterm exams. And Mom chats and tells her not to worry, that Bobby is much better now. Then, a half hour later on the same day, Mr. Creed, the guidance counselor, calls Mom and says he's got a huge pile of books and assignments for me. He'd be happy to bring them over to the house, and if the flu isn't infectious anymore, maybe he could talk with Bobby and explain some of the assignments. But Mom says no, don't bother. She'll be happy to stop in at the office because Bobby is still tired a lot. And the counselor says it would be good if the school could have a note from our family doctor about the illness just for the files. Sorry, I'm doing something. I'm getting something together, so hold on, please. I'm trying to multitask here. And because if I don't, it won't work. All right, mission accomplished. Sorry. Just because that's the school policy about long absences. When there's a note in the file, the work can be made up gradually with no penalties. But Mom and Dad don't have a note from Dr. Weston because that would mean a house call. Dr. Weston's bedside manner is a little too gossipy, a little too informal for Dad. Dad doesn't want Dr. Weston anywhere near me. So there's no note. The next day, Mom calls Mr. Creed and then goes to pick up my assignments. Her black eyes have turned to a bruised yellow, so no one stares too much when she goes to the counseling center. But when Mom is talking with Mr. Creed and the school nurse happens to pass by, Mrs. Phillips, isn't it? And how's that Bobby? He has the flu, right? It doesn't feel like a coincidence. Schools aren't in the business of wondering about kids or guessing about kids. Schools are in the business of knowing, and when a school wants to find something out, the school takes steps. Private schools aren't linked up with the state government like the public schools are. They actually try to stay free of the state. But one of the ways private schools do that is by following all the rules. And the state has rules about children and extended illnesses and contagious diseases, and it doesn't matter what kind of school the kid attends. So that's why a second Save Bobby Phillips committee gets going. At the beginning, it's the nurse, my teachers, the guidance counselor, and the people who run the school. Maybe it's the nurse or the counselor or somebody else at school. Maybe it's nobody at the school. But it's somebody, and I vote for the nurse. Because somebody calls the Cook County Board of Health and reports that a 15-year-old boy attending University High School has been ill for 3 weeks. The parents have not supplied a note from a doctor. No one has even seen the child, me, that is, during the past 3 weeks. And then somebody at the Board of Health calls the Department of Children and Family Services. So the second Save Bobby Phillips committee is getting bigger. And this committee has an action plan. Uh-oh. A small war. It's another Monday morning, and after 3 full weeks at home, a ringing doorbell is a major event in my life. So I drop the Lord of the Rings on my bed and trot to the landing at the top of the front hall staircase. I bend down to look, and I can see that Mom is standing in the front doorway, and I listen. Mrs. Phillips? Yes? How do you do? My name is Officer Martha Paget, and I'm from the School and Truancy Division of the State Department of Children and Family Services. May I come in? Is there a problem? When Mom says that, I tiptoe to my room, pull off all my clothes, and hustle down the back stairs. I want to see the action. By the time I get up at the front of the house, Mom is still standing squarely in the doorway. She's not even going to let the woman into the front hall. I'm about 4 feet away, looking at them through the front doors that open to the hall from the parlor. The woman is shorter than Mom. Most women are. She's got a narrow face, and her brown hair is pulled back into some kind of twisty thing. The thick lenses in her wire-frame glasses make her eyes look big. She's wearing a blue skirt and jacket. Her coat has a small American flag on the left lapel. Her white shirt is buttoned all the way up, and there's a black briefcase in her left hand. The lady is smiling, nodding, talking, and Mom is listening, trying to look pleasant, her arms folded across her chest. So naturally, there's some concern about Bobby. I'm sure you'll agree that 3 weeks is an uncommonly long illness. Since the school has not received a note from a physician, we've been asked to make a visit and simply verify that Bobby's on the mend and that everything's fine at home. So this isn't just a chat. This lady wants to see a body. My body. I can see the wheels spinning behind Mom's eyes. She's smiling and it looks like a real smile, but I know better. That's her I'm just barely not ripping your head off smile. Raising her eyebrow, still smiling, Mom says, And you believe you have the authority to march up my front steps and into my home and ask to see my sick child? Is that what you're saying? Do you have a search warrant? This social worker doesn't know Emily Colton Phillips. For example, she doesn't know that Mom got pushed around by Chicago cops when she was 18 during the 1968 Democratic Convention, and Mom pushed back. I've seen the news footage. Then, 2 years later, she chained herself to the doorway of the university president's office, and she stayed there for 6 days until he promised to hire more women as professors. The lady looks up at Mom, and I can see her stiffen and tighten her grip on the handle of her briefcase. She keeps smiling, too, but I can see it's just a mask. I'm looking at a small war between 2 smart women. Without raising her voice, she says, You mean today? Do I have a search warrant right now? No, Mrs. Phillips, not today. But I can assure you that I do have every single right under the child protection laws of the state of Illinois to have a brief visit with your son. And if I need to have a search warrant to accomplish that, then I can certainly get one. Mom waves her hand as if to whisk away that idea. Oh, don't mind me, Miss Badger. It's Miss Paget, says the woman in blue. Mom laughs lightly, still smiling. Oh, yes, Miss Paget. Please forgive me. I must sound like I'm ready to call a press conference and accuse you of being a jackbooted government thug or something. That's just my old radical upbringing talking. Of course you can talk to Bobby. You could talk to him right now, except for one problem. He's not here. The lady looks surprised, almost as surprised as I am. She says, Oh, I see. Do you mind my asking where he is? She's stooping now, putting her briefcase flat on the porch floor. She opens it and takes out a pen and a yellow legal pad. Not at all. It's so cold and damp this time of year in Chicago. With his illness and the accident and all, Mr. Phillips and I decided that some time away would be good for Bobby. He left Thursday to stay with a relative in Florida for a month or so. Miss Paget is surprised again. Florida? She's standing up now, writing. Mom nods, smiles sweetly. Yes, we're withdrawing Bobby from school for the rest of this semester. He just missed his midterm exams, and we don't want him to feel burdened with all that makeup work. It's just too much right now, and his health has to come first. Scribbling on the yellow pad, the woman nods. Yes, of course. And where in Florida will he be? Mom says, Down in the southern part, where it's nice and warm. The woman frowns slightly, but keeps writing, and without looking up, she says, "And when do you expect Bobby to come home?" With a shrug and a smile, Mom says, "Hard to say. Certainly not until he's feeling like his old self again. Now, Miss Paget, is there anything else I can help you with this morning?" The lady looks up into Mom's face, her eyes slightly narrowed, her lips pressed together. There's a pause, and the silence is filled with questions. Questions like, "Where is he really?" And, "Do you know how fast I could have a search warrant?" And, "You know this isn't over, don't you?" Then she bends down to put her pad and pen back into the briefcase. The latches click, she straightens up, looks Mom in the face, and says, "I think that's all the help I need today, Mrs. Phillips. Thanks so much for your time." Mom meets the lady's eyes and smiles. They both know that round one is over. Mom won. "You're quite welcome. Bye now." When the lady's heels have tapped across the wooden porch and down the steps, Mom turns around and calls softly, "Bobby!" I open one of the French doors. "In here, Mom. So now I'm in Florida, huh? Cool." "I can hear you smiling, Bobby, and you shouldn't be. This isn't funny." Mom moves quickly to the lace curtains on the front bay window and peeks out. "These people are like pit bulls. See that?" I look over her shoulder, and the social worker is standing on the porch next door talking with Mrs. Trent, taking notes. "That lady is on a case. You are the case, Bobby, and your father and I. The school nurse and the Board of Health and the Department of Children and Family Services have got their little collective brain into a tizzy about one missing boy, and they're going to push until they get answers. This isn't funny." But I think it is. Right, so what do you think? Do you think they think you murdered me and put me down on the garbage disposal or something? Or maybe I'm locked in a closet. Come on, Mom, get real. But Mom isn't smiling. Her face is so pale that the bruises under her eyes look bright as goldfinches. Her lips are tight, her words clipped. "No, Robert, you get real. You do not understand this situation. This is not a joke. This is the state. These people have real power, and they're not afraid to use it. Kids do get hurt by their parents and others, and someone's got to be allowed to look around if things are suspicious. And right now, our situation looks very suspicious. It's not going to surprise me one bit if that woman and 6 of Chicago's finest police officers come back here in 1 hour with a search warrant and complete authority to tear this house apart, looking for one Bobby Phillips, male Caucasian, age 15 years, last seen by Mrs. Trent getting out of a cab on the evening his parents were involved in a car crash, when he was already supposedly home from school with a severe case of the flu. So don't laugh about this. This is a real mess, and it's dangerous for you. I don't want these people taking you away from me. And now I've got to call Aunt Ethel." Mom runs to the den and calls her aunt and tells her that if she gets a contact from anyone asking about me, she's to say that I've been there since March 13th and that I arrived by train. Or maybe it would be a good idea to let her answering machine screen the calls for the next week or so. Because if you don't talk to anyone, you can't very well be charged with perjury. That means lying. And really, maybe the best idea is to go check into a nice hotel under her maiden name for a week or so, at our expense, of course. Would she mind terribly? And if you want to talk, please call our cell phone number. And when Aunt Ethel asks for details, Mom feels like she has to give them to her. So she takes about 3 minutes and tells the condensed version of how Bobby became a fugitive from the law. And Aunt Ethel is the only one so far who isn't fazed by the idea of an invisible teenager. She says something like, "Well, isn't that curious? He must fly down here at once so he can be my bridge partner." So now great Aunt Ethel is in on the secret. Mom's wrong about one thing, though. It's when she says that the social worker could be back in an hour with a search warrant to tear the house apart. Actually, it only takes Miss Paget 45 minutes. And that's where we're going to stop, because that's an awesome place to stop. So, all right, have a good day.